It's a special edition of our first NBC video update as we take a look at Quarterfinal Friday in the Louisiana High School football playoffs. Ken Trahan, Lenny Vangilder with you here. And Ken, you would be Ken, I would be Lenny. First of all, we start off by telling our viewers out there and our followers, Happy Thanksgiving. And if you're practicing on Thanksgiving Day in high school football, that is a great thing, isn't it?
It's a wonderful thing, and these teams have earned it, and it's terrific. And we want to get a shameless plug out of the way first to listen to Ken Trahan's original Prep Football Report Friday night, the quarterfinal edition. Coverage begins at 6:05 with countdown to the original. Then within the show, we'll have the Rummel at Ouachita Parish 5A playoff game, and then in between, the scores, live reports, analysis from the studio, and then back to the studio at game's end. So it's a special edition. It's great. You'll get everything you want. And, of course, the scores here at sportsnola.com.
20 games on this quarterfinal weekend. Let's start in 5A since you brought that up. You'll be in Monroe for Rummel and Ouachita Parish. Obviously a challenge for the top seed to have to go on the road and play a pretty good team. Your thoughts on the quarterfinal round in 5A?
Well, I think there are two games that the favorites are going to win. I do believe that Barb is going to beat Parkway even on the road, and I do believe West Monroe is going to win at home against Airline. I think the other two games are potential upset alerts. Ouachita Parish is good enough to beat Rummel. They're bigger, might be faster. Rummel's got some issues in terms of some injuries. Their center, Pierce Bonk, is out of the game with pneumonia, and they have another injury or two that are key as well to keep an eye on. But this is a tough Rummel team that understands how to win in the playoffs, so this is going to be a great game. Could go either way. The other upset alert certainly would be Mandeville and Catholic. Mandeville playing well at the right time again. Guy LeComte does a terrific job. Got to the quarterfinals last year and then made it to the semifinals and played very well in a loss at West Monroe. And here they are in the quarterfinals again playing Catholic High, who's also playing great. Rematch of a game played early in the season. Catholic won the game at home, but this is a rematch. It's at Mandeville. I give the Skippers a good chance.
Be interesting to watch those games on Friday night. 4A, an incredible New Orleans flavor, or I should say Southeast Louisiana flavor, with 5 of the 8 teams coming from our immediate area here, and we could potentially, be on the verge of an all New Orleans final if some things can kind of hold in place. Although it's going to be hard to beat Neville at the top of the bracket.
Right, and that's Vanderbilt Catholic's task to go up to Monroe, much like Rummel is, and to try to beat the defending state champions and a team that's won 2 of the last 3. They're really good. Is Neville. John Diarce is really good, but they're fast and they're strong. And Neville certainly is a prohibitive favorite here. Elijah McGuire's been great for Vanderbilt Catholic. Terriers have had a great season. I don't think it goes beyond this week, although let's see what happens. You never know. McDonough 35. Again, Wayne Reese has his team playing very well. They played a tough schedule, prepared them well, and that's why they're here. And they're at home against Sterling's Catholic. The Rebels are really good, but 35 looked very, very good against Salmon last week. They got speed, they got size. That figures to be a good game. LaGrange at Holy Cross, I like the Tigers. I think they are a solid favorite in this game, and I think they're going to get to the semifinals for the first time since 1967. And then St. Augustine and Endicott, the blockbuster matchup, they could probably fit about 6 or 7 times the number of people into the stadium that are going to be there. What a game. Played in a jamboree earlier this year. You'd give a slight edge to Endicott on balance based upon what they've done all season long, but you never sell St. Augustine short. They've got Leonard Fournette. Enough said.
I would imagine there'll be quite a few college coaches trying to be amongst that crowd as well, because there will be an awful lot of major college football talent on that field across the river come Friday. Now let's move on to Class 3A. Now, not a lot of New Orleans interest perhaps here. The local team's out, but still, some very good teams trying to make their way to the Dome in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we don't have any local interest here, but Parkview Baptist got a real scare. They had to rally very late to beat Bruley last week. They're the number 1 seed, and I think that's the kind of game that can catapult you forward to escape that potential upset. They've got a road test at North DeSoto, who beat Jules Sumner last week, but I like Parkview Baptist. Livonia-Jennings, 5-12 matchup. That's kind of a toss-up. Livonia fought past Port Allen. Jennings with a very good win over a high seed in La Rondre. The game is at Livonia. Because they're at home, I'll give them a slight edge. East Feliciana at Farmerville. Of course, Beckwith may be the best player in Louisiana at East Feliciana. He's special, and he's a primary reason they're in the quarterfinals as a 22nd seed. But they've got the Farmers of Farmerville. Very physical team, accustomed to being here. Tough game. It's at Farmerville. Long trip, I'd give them a slight edge. Rematch of a district game, Iowa at Notre Dame. Iowa, I was told before the playoffs started, watch this team. They've got a lot of speed. They're dangerous. Notre Dame, Louis Cook, consistent as can be. Rematch games are always tough. This will be tough, but I do like the Pios to win the game.
Moving on to 2A, and of course we have to start the conversation with the number one seed and the number one ranked team in America and a couple of the polls, and John Curtis, who gets a rematch game in their own right. It was a game that we televised on WHNO against Riverside, and really that first game was really a mismatch, but you got to congratulate the job that Bill Stubbs has done at Riverside. This team is much improved over the course of the season.
Well, they really are, and of course we started with a caveat because we all know Curtis is going to win the game, and that does not take anything away from what Riverside has done this year. You still got to play the game, obviously, but I see no way that they can beat John Curtis, who's just a team without any flaws. They're tremendous, and they're going to go on and prove that, I do believe. But again, Bill Stubbs, you understand why they hired him now, having him here in the quarterfinals with that young of a football team and playing a rematch game. Manny in Springfield. Springfield's a good story. They fly below radar on the North Shore, and Ryan Surpass has done an outstanding job. They took down North Lake Christian, their district rival, last week. They've been very consistent all season long, and they get a home game against a 21st seed in Manny that shocked Winfield, who was in the Dome last year. 21-14. You beat a team like Winfield that had so many returning players, you're good. Tough game for Springfield, but they're at home. Slight edge. Calvary Baptist, University Lab. This is the matchup to watch in 2A. This is a game that could have 100 points scored. You look at University Lab and what they've done this year, they've dominated opponents. Only one loss. That was to a high classification team, or higher classification team. And, of course, they've got enormous firepower. Calvary Baptist, they beat West Monroe. They can score on anybody, and they're at home. Look, in a case like this, you go with the proven commodity. Calvary's been there a little bit longer. I'll give them a very slight edge at home, a long trip for University in that game. And then Carver playing on Saturday at 5 p.m. at Pan American Stadium against Vangilder. Long trip for the Eagles, but they've been there, done that. Listen, Carver's playing great. They got a lot of skill, and I know they can score on Vangilder. Last year, Vangilder beat them 61-0 in the opening round. I think the gap's closed, but not enough for Carver to win.
That bottom of the bracket is the potential for some entertaining football, and we could have another holy war coming in the semifinals if the seeds hold there. It'll be something to watch for. As we get down to Class 1A, clearly Ouachita Christian is the class, and they are back at home in the quarterfinals and perhaps on another road back to the Dome.
Well, Southern Lab was one of my upset specials. I'm 8 for 10 on the upset specials in 2 rounds thus far, and they pulled it off last week, beating the higher seed Point Capee Central. But now they've got to go to OCS, and I certainly see the Eagles emerging victorious here and getting to the semifinals against Kentwood, because I believe the Kangaroos go on the road and win at Basile, which would set up quite a semifinal matchup between OCS and Kentwood. Kentwood's good enough athletically to play with OCS, but they're young, so we'll see what happens. I do like the Kangaroos to win their game. Vermilion Catholic, they can really score. They're the 3rd seed, and they're at home against West St. John. But I like the Rams. Austin Howard is a really good quarterback. Jeremy Jackson's running the ball extremely well. So is Kylan Favorite. I just think they're the better team. They were in the Dome last year. It's going to be a competitive game, but I like West St. John on the road. And then Haynesville, perennial power, the 2nd seed at home against Westminster Christian. Westminster Christian's playing really well. They've dominated opponents thus far in the playoffs, and they're home, which is going to make this a very interesting game. But Haynesville, they've not given up a point yet in the playoffs. I like them to win.
Should be a fun Friday and Saturday in the quarterfinals. And, of course, as Ken mentioned, follow it all at sportsnola.com and tune in to Ken Trahan's original on WGSO 990 AM. You can catch the stream at sportsnola.com as well, or radio stations all across the state. We'll be back next week with another special edition to get you set up for the semifinals. So stay with us here at sportsnola.com, where you get the most prep coverage in Louisiana.